There's a worker right outside the window. He's like 10 feet from us. We're trying to keep eyes on him.
In today's video, we're going to be exploring a fascinating, complex, abandoned psychiatric hospital with a hauntingly horrific history that is certain to make your skin crawl. First and foremost, the state hospital happens to be located in a town with its share of historical ups and downs. Not only was there a significant Civil War siege in the same area, but also the very first hospital for African Americans was built here, which would go on to become the state psychiatric hospital that will forever be linked to both tragedy and triumph, and would never overcome the tragic history that it so desperately tried to forget.
Hopefully we're in. I just got to this abandoned hospital. We've been here a few years ago, but the way we entered got locked up, so now we're down in the tunnels. And hopefully this leads up somewhere. Nothing. It doesn't really seem like that's a dead end. I don't think this goes up. I think we gotta go through that window.
I think we need to.
A no-go. Doesn't seem like they go upstairs. I guess we can check down here.
Yeah.
I don't think so, bro. And wait. Is that the window?
Is it?
No.
No, that was high up.
That was high.
Okay.
No. All right, let's pack it up real quick. Yeah, it's probably a way in. Let's go quiet. So we just got in that window right there. We're inside an old abandoned state hospital. All right, we're heading up to the jogging trail. We're gonna start up on the top floor, just work our way down.
So this large area would have been the day room, I can imagine. Now, many of these buildings aren't as old as 1870, but this hospital opened in 1870. I mean, 150 years ago, or something like that. Look at the old mural. It's really faded now. God, you can hardly tell what it is. There was a car driving by when we came up that probably spotted us, but it was only one car. So we're keeping an eye on the front too, just to make sure we don't get any surprises. It's the last thing we need. The ceiling is starting to collapse in multiple areas. When we were here, maybe 5 years ago, this was not this bad. But it's definitely taken a toll. The long-troubled hospital first opened its doors in 1870 as a lunatic asylum, commonly known today as a psychiatric hospital. But this one varied from the norm, as it originally intended to be the first institution in the country for treating colored persons of the unsound mind. Furthermore, The hospital was created by state legislature in direct response to the ending of the American Civil War, the abolishment of slavery, and mounting pressure to create sustainable healthcare facilities for this exact population, mainly as professional medical care for mentally ill African Americans was virtually non-existent prior to the Civil War. On February 1st, 1870, when the state assumed control of the hospital, a count of the population included 123 insane patients and 100 paupers who did not suffer from mental illness but instead were homeless and had nowhere to go. The entire patient population was African American, as traditional white people were not eligible to become patients until segregation finally ended in the 1960s. The main problem for the hospital was that many institution policies, rules, and regulations were considered to have racist origins, and that the hospital was built to imprison African American people in the most nightmarish of conditions. For example, the premises on the hospital were primitive. Holes were dug for toilets, water was supplied by a well, and lighting was provided by both candles and kerosene lanterns. Then, after one noisy female patient killed another patient in 1872, 15 cells were constructed with iron grate doors instead of the solid wood to allow constant viewing inside to avoid a disastrous repeat.
Here's pretty much the main attraction.
Look at these windows, though. These ones are circular with a cross. But look at all those colors. So I'd say even though this hospital dates back to 1870, this building is probably 1920s. Pre-Depression era. All brick, 3 stories. This is a cool wheelchair here.
So this was a nurse's station. You'd see they would hand the medicine right through this door. That's pretty cool. It's like the only door in the hallway that's like that.
In addition, male attendants were employed exclusively on the wards for all female patients. Officials claimed that it was necessary to employ these male attendants because women did not have the sufficient strength to manage such disorderly patients. The definition of insane in regard to black people during the Reconstruction into the Jim Crow era was dangerously flexible, as many times it was solely based on the opinion of a white person, who may have been suspiciously wary of the new post-emancipation social order after slaves were finally freed in the early 1860s. Religious excitement was a common name for psychosis at that time, and other reasoning for mental illness in black people, other than freedom from slavery, were thought to be caused from outlandish reasons, such as abortion and masturbation. It should be noted that just a few years ago, a former state social worker was made aware that the state hospital was about to destroy over a century of patient records to save on space, but he ended up partnering with the hospital and digitized all of the old records into a large database. These records were a gold mine of information. From 1885 to 1970, every black person with a mental illness that went to the hospital was documented. They showed the hospital and the patient's workings, treatments, and everything else the patient did from day to day. However, it's a daunting collection, as there were over 800,000 documents, thousands of different pictures, and almost 1 million index cards with crucial patient information. It was literally a ton of information to scan and document, and now the hospital's historical records have been saved where they can be used for years to come.
Pretty sure all of these rooms are gutted and empty, and they're all boarded up. That's why it's really dark on this side of the building. These big day rooms. There's 2 of them right next to each other.
Here are some of the reasons many people were admitted to the state psychiatric hospital: abortion, desertion, not getting along with the employee or employer, emancipation, marriage, masturbation, talking back to a police officer, typhoid fever, on the wrong side of the street, and being too old with no place to go. And due to this mindset, hospital officials suggested that since insanity in black people was rapidly increasing, a new facility for up to 500 patients was desperately needed. But it wasn't until 1882 that overcrowding was so pronounced that it became obvious a new facility had to be built, and ultimately a nearby 300-acre parcel of land was selected.
Look how small the windows are on each door. No wonder you would go crazy in there. Jeez. Another real big day room.
Construction of the new state psychiatric hospital began that same year in 1882. However, the new hospital did little to halt the mistreatment of patients, as even darker days were ahead. In 1885, the patients from the initial asylum were transferred to the newly built red brick and gray granite hospital. It had a central 4-story administration building flanked on each side by a 3-story wing, each containing 6 patient wards. This architectural building arrangement, which is widely known as the Kirkbride Plan, was meant to be a symbol of both humane and moral psychiatric treatment.
Same, but different.
Nurses station.
Yeah, nurses station.
Yeah.
Wow, look how rusted out this is.
In 1894, legislation was created to help change the negative connotation of these places, so the lunatic insane asylum name was changed, and it was now considered a state psychiatric hospital.
Look at the decay in this place.
Officials hoped that this name change would evoke positive feelings toward these facilities by both patients and the staff. It was also during this time period that the state hospital expanded to include buildings for the specific treatment of patients that were acute, chronic, demented, sick, tubercular, epileptic, criminal, homicidal, and of course, suicidal.
Yeah, this room looks like it had a fire at one point. There's the bathrooms, the showers. That ugly green paint they used to have on there. This used to be Becca's favorite thing to do in an abandoned building. Like, she wouldn't even take photos. She would just sit there and peel the paint off the walls. Missy Becca. Check out that mural.
Now, to me, I would think these are name plaques, but I can't imagine them having 2 people in these rooms. There's like name plaques on the doors. Dude. 2 people, maybe bunk beds? Fuck. Jeez, no way. one's missing, but you can see where it was. Yup, that one's got 2 names on it. Wow. Pretty crazy. The wards for the suicidal patients were the least furnished in an effort to prevent self-harm. In the early 1900s, women were finally accepted and admitted, which prompted the creation of a new building for females suffering from severe mental illness. It was also during the early 1900s that other institution amenities were constructed, such as a chapel, a recreation building, workshops, a kitchen, laundry facilities, and dormitories. In 1925, hydrotherapy tubs were installed to provide the new form of mental health treatment, and in 1930, the new medical building was built. The first floor was used for surgery, examinations, dentistry, lectures, x-rays, laboratories, treatment, and drug therapy. The second and the third floors were reserved for the bedridden patients so that they were undisturbed by outpatient and ambulatory services going on downstairs. Each room was capable of holding 2 patients in a cramped claustrophobic design with a small grated window for the outside and a tiny circular window built into each of the colorful interior doors. These windows would not only allow for the patients to see out into the main hallways, but it also provided the orderlies with a view into each of the patient rooms so that they could effectively and efficiently check on each of the patients during their hourly security rounds.
Alright, so that was the second floor. Making our way down to the first floor now.
Yep, down to the main floor. In the 1950s, the psychiatric hospital was under scrutiny for overcrowding once again after it was reported that a single ward had over 300 patients stacked in like sardines into one single room, and many patients in the criminal building had to resort to sleeping on the floor. Look at this pimpin' wheelchair here. Now, if I ever got confided to a wheelchair, I would want this one.
That one still has a patient name, Sierra Gray. Got this surgical light right here. That'd be cool if that was still hanging. I wonder where that surgical light was. Is there a light? There is a light in the morgue, right? Could have been in the morgue. Yeah, it would have had to have been in the morgue, I guess. This auditorium, right? Little auditorium and stage.
As the patient population at the state hospital peaked at nearly 5,000 patients, construction of more buildings, including a maximum security forensic building and a geriatric unit, were eventually completed to help ease these overcrowding issues. Look at the growth coming off the ceiling. That's crazy. They look like stalagmites and stalactites or whatever.
That's a cool shot right there. The green on the walls.
You know what the crazy thing is? I think we wheeled that in here.
We did wheel this here
5 years ago. And now everybody shoots it. There was I think that was in here.
The wheelchair was in here.
And we moved that in here.
From that big room.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I don't think I even photographed it. Or I think I took one photo. And I didn't like my shot.
Look at the grime, dude. Like, oh, this wall.
Wall really makes this photo.
In the 1960s, the state hospital had been accused of doing alleged mistreatment and possible experimentation on some of the patients, with the majority being unethical, as these practices denied patients to their right of informed consent, and they also used pseudoscientific framework that often involved torturing patients under the guise of medical research. and it went from bad to worse. In 1980, the state hospital was again in hot water when a huge scandal was exposed.
Yeah. It's fire damage.
It was revealed that over 7,000 patients throughout the course of the hospital's history had been forcefully sterilized from 1924 to 1973. Nothing, little lab.
So we're looking for the morgue.
Yes.
The morgue's pretty much, I think, the last thing we have to see.
A group of people brought a lawsuit against the state with the help of the American Civil Liberties Union. They won the lawsuit, which now meant that the state had to notify all people of their past sterilizations and foot the tab for reversible operations.
Bunch of old patient beds in here. Look how rusted they are. Look at the faces of the old mural. That's pretty wild. It's like an old pinball.
Yeah, it is.
Dude, look at that.
There's the flippers.
Yeah. Look at that old pinball machine, yeah, with the clown face. That's pretty cool.
Down, isn't it, maybe?
But
Or all where
down
we were,
where we were, you gotta walk down past the bed we were just shooting. I think that leads to the morgue. Huh, I wonder if that did lead in.
I know.
Fresh pizza. Pizza ovens. So here's the morgue. It's a pretty cool one, you know. A lot of people don't like the pizza oven looking ones, but it's unique. It's something different.
Oh, there's 6 of them, not 4. Yeah. 2, 3. Yeah, there's 2 up top that are still closed. 1 there and 1 there. Temperature gauges. That one's grimy. And then there's another one there. It's closed. Autopsy table still here. Grimy too. It's all flooded out. Looks like bodily fluids in there. Look at this thing. Can't believe it's still in here and still hooked up. This is all copper piping. Nobody's scrapped all this copper still here. It's crazy. It's still hooked up. And then finally, almost as if pouring salt on the already open wounds, in the 1990s, the state psychiatric facility was once again making headlines due to increasing reports of patient abuse and neglect. The allegations of inadequate protection from potential injuries, dangerous behaviors, and abuse, coupled with the inappropriate use of restraints and seclusion on the patients, was investigated by the U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division and eventually found to have merit. And as a result, the hospital had to implement governing oversight to make sure that the hospital would commit to providing adequate and appropriate psychiatric and mental health services in accordance with accepted professional standards. Otherwise, they would face potential civil rights violation lawsuits.
That's about to wrap it up for this building. About to take our cards out. We're gonna try and go to another building.
So we're gonna swap, so just in case we get stopped, we won't have photos on our
cameras. Yep.
These true unfortunate findings helped make a necessary overhaul throughout the entire state psychiatric hospital and its facilities, reaching into every program and to every building. However, these vital changes did come at a cost.
Oh, it's open right there. It's open. Right in front of us.
By the 2000s, the increased need for those drastically needed improvements ended up costing the state millions of dollars annually. So, in more recent years, many once state-funded programs have now been cut due to the shrinking budgets.
Yeah, there you go. Alright, so we just got into the second building. We're looking for the dentist chair here. I believe that's the only thing in here to photograph, is that and probably some hallways.
With this, the overall population of the hospital also declined, and many buildings began to close down one by one. As of today, half of the campus remains active, while the other half has been largely abandoned, which is what makes the actual explore very sketchy, simply due to the amount of state police, hospital security, hospital maintenance, and other state employees that will most certainly call the police if anyone is spotted near the old abandoned buildings on the campus.
Yeah.
Old school.
Wow. This is pretty wild right here. Look at this. That's insane, dude. That is a strong tree. That tree grew through that whole damn wall, dude, through the ceiling. Dude, look how warped these doors are. That's crazy. There's a worker right outside the window. He's like 10 feet from us. We're trying to keep eyes on him. Okay. Yeah.
And albeit as successful as it is, it should come as no surprise that due to the sheer amount of overcrowding, medical experimentation, poor unsanitary conditions, and the abuse and neglect of the patients, that many ended up dying during their residency at the state hospital. The exact amount remains unknown, but it is estimated to be somewhere in the thousands, and there's even a cemetery on the campus that has numerous unmarked graves. It is also the exact reason that many people claim that this is one of the most haunted locations in all of America.
Look at that. Look at the whole entire wall is buckled about to fall. That's crazy, dude.
It's pushing through. Okay, so
Dude, I can't believe the whole building is gutted and then this is in here.
It's nuts.
Doesn't even make sense.
This is so old.
Still has the tools hanging out of it.
Porcelain, fucking spitball.
Look at that white. Look at that.
That's fucking sick.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And that's going to wrap it up for today's video on the abandoned insane asylum with a terrifying history. With this location's haunting backstory and everything else that these patients had to go through, it should help make us grateful for all of the institutional changes and ethical practices that these places were forced to implement so that we don't have to repeat this dark chapter in our nation's history. We also hope that you all enjoyed another video from Abandoned Central. Please drop a comment, like the video, but most importantly, subscribe to Abandoned Central on YouTube so that you get all of the latest and greatest. Thank you again, friends, for all the support.